Good morning, everybody. Shift your mindset here with a new episode, the closing arguments of the Norwegian trial. And first up was, of course, the Watchtower lawyer, Anders Risdal, and he started by opposing the state argument, of course, and all their witnesses. The witnesses from the state were all crap. He dismissed, of course, the accusations of negative social control, coercion, children's rights violation, and it was a meager evidence from hostile witnesses. The state actions were unfair, and it was just an attack on religious freedom of all the 12,000 Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. And that's how we know him, opposing everything that's said in the court. And he's getting paid big time for those arguments. He thinks this whole case is poorly investigated, because this case is not about negative social control, and he can prove that thoroughly. The core issue is the religious practice, and he paints a picture in court that they are not a frightening religion. They don't believe in hell and all those things, but he forget to mention about Armageddon and how we as children are frightened that Armageddon is coming, and if you're not a nice boy or little girl, you're being dead in Armageddon if you don't obey all the laws in the religion. And he argues that it's poorly investigated by the state and that they should have conducted an independent expert assessment of Jehovah's Witnesses. And he blames, after that he starts to blame the parents. Why? Because their baptism is not that different from other churches. Membership is open to everybody and anyone can leave, he said. Yes, you can leave, but at what cost, lawyer? He claims that if the children are baptized too early, it's the parents' fault, not us. We're the governing body, it's not our fault. So they are shifting in this court case everything to the own personal decisions. There are no guidelines for being baptized at 8 or 10 years old. But don't we all remember, I believe it was Samuel Hurt also, that in some broadcasting he proudly announced that someone of 8 years old was baptized and already was doing the best they could for Jehovah. They are keen on having those exceptional things happening in the organization. They love to brag about young children already being baptized and believing in Jehovah. They're making it an example in the broadcastings that young children are already choosing for Jehovah, and you also should choose for Jehovah. It starts there already. So it's a lame argument from him. And he reiterates that testimonies of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have little value. He also cites, of course, Massimo Introvine as a source. And he claims that Jehovah's Witnesses are liberal. Yes, people, you hear it right. They are liberal. I didn't know that, but hey, it's news. Maybe it's becoming new light. I don't know. But some parents have made mistakes and have been too strict. So the picture he wants to give us all is that the Jehovah's Witnesses are not a strict religion. And we come to that. So he compares it to doing doping in sports. Some athletes use it, but it doesn't mean that everybody does. When it comes to the Jehovah's Witness publications, I think he shot himself in the foot, because he says that there are no legal texts and that two people can read the exact same text but interpret it differently. And he also made a bold claim, because he claims that elders don't act as a police force, or that they are seeking out ex-members to pull back right in. Of course, he provides no evidence for his claims, so I think he made it very easy for the state to make a decision about these claims. And he goes on about in another day with his closing arguments. And now it's getting interesting. And these arguments I want to highlight a little bit more. Because, of course, exclusion is, like he says, a loving arrangement. It's not a punishment. It's more like a therapeutic measure. I don't know what's therapeutic about it. If you go to a therapist, you will know the difference between speaking to a therapist who's there for you, for your best interest, who wanna help you get further in life, not feeling guilty anymore about certain decisions, etc., etc. But speaking to elders or having a judicial committee is nothing therapeutic about it. Nothing. Because it's more like an interrogation. And a therapist is not interrogating you. He wants to help you forward. Family relationships, people, listen good. Family relationship, he argues, remain the same after exclusion. So, where is my family, Strisdal? Where is he? Where's my father now? Why isn't he calling me? Is that his personal fault? Is that the fault of my father? I'm gonna defend my father. I'm not agreeing with him, what he's doing, but why he is doing it. He is doing it because he's loyal to the organization and their guidelines. Every father, every mother has a heart. They have love for their children. They educated their children. It is a product of a father and a mother together. They automatically love a child. They will do anything for their child, if it's in danger, whatever. So, why should a loving parent or loving parents exclude their son or their daughter and never talk to them again? It's against instinct, it's against nature, it's against every feeling inside your body. So why haven't we heard from our family? And why am I not the only one on Mother Earth who is experiencing this at this moment? There are millions of people like me who haven't talked to their family members ever again after being excluded, being disfellowshipped, being shunned, being disassociated. If it's just a religion, a liberal religion, why is it going wrong so badly? Why am I not the only one? My parents can be too strict. I know they are strict, my father now. But when my mother was alive, they were strict. But why am I not the only one? Why is every family member of people who are disassociated that strict? And they are not following the governing body's rules because it's a personal decision. And like this lawyer said, family relationships remain the same. He continues his lie to say that it's up to the Jehovah's Witness to decide how much or little contact they want with a disfellowship person. He goes further with his lying. His nose is growing. He insists that elders do not give any instructions or advice regarding contact. Why in the Shepherd of the Flock book it said that if someone keeps on hanging out with a disfellowship person, he loses his privileges and can be disfellowshipped, him or herself. Why is that in the Elders Manual? Why are you trying to hide something that's easily fact-checked by the state? Because they have that book. People are not stupid. Why do you have disfellowshipped videos about how it's been done, how you have to do it, how loyal you have to be to get into that earthly paradise, to survive Armageddon? It's not a personal decision you see on that screen, on that video. It's the law. And the same video everybody gets. So tell me, what is going wrong? He goes further with his lies because he claims a high degree of normalcy in family relationships with his fellowship members. He argues that complex personal circumstances and former members' mental health issues are the real reason people experience social rejection. But of course, he provides no evidence for that ludicrous claim. And he goes in hard with his closing arguments. He is sharp in a bad way, but I don't know what he's believing of himself or the Jehovah's Witnesses, but he keeps on lying, on lying, on lying, on lying. But I tell you this, Mr. Lawyer, you're fooling nobody. Then, of course, another tactic we know is divide and conquer, making the victim the aggressor. It's a nice tactic some people use. And of course, he starts to discredit all the testimonies of former members, witness by witness. So, how do those witnesses feel, people? I want to have a little moment for them, because you're an ex-JW. You have the balls, you have the courage to show up and testify for the state about those shunning rules, how you're being treated by the Jehovah's Witness religion. Maybe you get triggered by some things, and now the lawyer is also discredit you witness by witness that your testimony as an ex-JW was worthless, that it was false, that you were lying. I can't imagine how hard it would be to sit there in that courtroom You faced your fears, you're being anxious, you're being maybe a little bit scared, but you were brave enough to take that stand and tell the story of all the Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses in the world. You were brave enough to stand there, and your testimony helped and was for all the ex-JWs around the world. And now that lawyer has the nerves to discredit your testimony. I think it was heartbreaking for some ex-JWs, but I also think they're strong enough to take that and just think, I know you're lying. Whatever you say doesn't matter. We know the truth about the horrific rules of disfellowshipping, disassociating, and shunning. But you have to be an evil man if you're gonna discredit real, honest testimonies of ex-JWs. He argues that the testimonies from the former members, from the ex-JWs, are unreliable and they don't justify stripping the organization of its registration and state funding. Of course, he provides no evidence why the testimony of the former member is unreliable. So he's only talking, and he is not going into it deeper, because he knows if he goes into those testimony, the state will ask questions, will react or whatever, and then he gets stuck. So it's all words, words, words with no meaning at all. And of course, he summarizes it by claiming that his client, the governing body, is being discriminated against because of their exclusion policy. And the state is interfering in things and the witnesses' right, and that the government is mistreating them. He plays the victim card, but it will not help him at all. So, and then also he says that no other country except Russia has gone as far as Norway in treating Jehovah's Witnesses differently from other religious groups. But he doesn't know that also in Eastern Europe, countries are waking up and want to get the Jehovah's Witnesses for their horrific rules who are violating human rights. And then it's of course Norway's state of Norway take the turn, and she says clearly, should individual religious freedom and children's rights take precedence over the religious freedom of a faith community when they conflict? So children can be forced into this religion. So the state stands by their decision about taking away the funding of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And one of the state's central arguments is that Jehovah's Witnesses create significant barriers to leaving the faith. And that is true. They are coercing members to remain. It's not about personal religious beliefs, but about institutionalized practices that make it extremely different, especially minors, to leave the religion. She said also that there is a limit on what religious communities can do. The state contends that those who attempt to leave the religion face severe social and emotional consequences. making the choice to stay less than voluntarily. And that is a violation of religious freedom. And another major concern raised by the state is that the Jehovah's Witness doctrine on disfellowshipping or exclusion can lead to social isolation of children. If a child fails to adhere to the religious strict rules, they risk being shunned by their family and community. Jehovah's Witnesses strictly prohibit association with those who leave the faith, including family members, and that can be devastating for children, who might be cut off from relatives and friends if they question or reject the group's teaching. It isn't just a religious practice, but it's a systematic method of control that violates children's fundamental right to social development and emotional well-being. Well said, State of Norway. Well said, because that's exactly what it is. And also a particularly concerning issue for the state is the role of a judicial committee. And we know that the Jehovah's Witnesses altered that one for minors a little bit. They don't name it a judicial committee anymore, but it's two elders talking with the minor, with the parents present, if it's necessary. So that's why they changed that rule of disfellowshipping a minor. Now we know, governing body, what your real intention was. It was prepping for this case. It was not about the well-being of your members, that we loosen up a little bit on this fellowshipping and that whole non-biblical thing. No, it was just to prepare yourself to have a better seat in this court case and a little bit more chance of winning a court case. It has nothing to do about a loving arrangement for all your followers. No, it has to do with this money issue. So you're getting exposed for that now. So it's all led by congregation elders. Sometimes a minor can be disfellowshipped. And they have to defend themselves in front of religious leaders in highly sensitive matters. And elders decide about their faith in the congregation. This could expose children to mental distress, intimidation, we know it's true, and an undue burden of guilt at an age where the children are still vulnerable. So they say we have a legal basis for deregistration and loss of funding. But then, of course, in the final day, Anders Risdal continued with his arguments, and he launched a sharp critique against the state's legal team. He filed a formal objection against the state for claiming that elders asked for explicit details in the judicial committee. So he proposed a formal protest, and then the court allowed Kare Soterhawk, an elder in the organization, to explain and emphasize that the internal guidance for the elders, Shepherd of the Flock book, doesn't encourage asking more detailed questions than necessary. He defends the religious practice. He says, the purpose of a judicial committee is to lead people back to a healthy relationship with God. And this should be done in a friendly manner. We know it should be done in a friendly manner, my man. But the downside of it, in real life, it isn't be done in a friendly manner. you're already sentenced before the judicial committee is started. That's reality. And like that lawyer, he attempts to deceive the court when he says that the process isn't being monitored in an oppressive way. It is monitored, and it is oppressive for those who are being tracked down and given an ultimatum if they don't attend the judicial committee meeting, especially when people don't want to meet. And then, of all the lies uttered in the last 2 weeks, this is the greatest one. Elders are directed to find out if porneia has been committed. How are they gonna do that if they don't ask invasive questions? Because could it be, they ask him, could it be that someone has experienced very detailed and unpleasant sentencing committees? It has never been in line with the guidance the elders have received. He has no knowledge of such cases. That's the biggest lie. Because if an elder wants to find out if porneia, adultery, whatever, has been committed, how are they gonna do that? How are they gonna check that if they don't ask invasive questions? I myself, I'm the living example of when I wanted to leave the religion and wanted to be disfellowshipped. I am a first-hand witness on the invasive questions. How often did you do it? Was it one time? Was it only oral sex? The only thing they didn't ask me is what positions we were doing. And I wasn't answering any of those questions, but they keep on asking questions. And it are indeed invasive questions. And I believe for sure that maybe also some women are sitting there and thinking, oh my God, what is happening here? What are they asking for me? You're getting red, you're getting maybe scared. But it's really, really invasive questions. Because they want to know every little detail of your naughty little thing that happened. And it's like they're getting off of it. Because who in his right mind would ask people those questions? I don't want to ask those questions to other people where they may be shut down or getting scared or that you're not feeling comfortable anymore. Because if I'm really want to help somebody, I want them to feel comfortable. I would want to feel them relaxed. I would want them to feel safe, especially safe people. But the judicial committee is quite the opposite of letting people feel safe, comfortable, relaxed, and that you are there to hear out what they have to say, why it was something what happened. Not what happened, but why. And how do you feel about it? And whatever. Create a comfortable but a safe environment for somebody. So, these were in a nutshell the closing arguments. The verdict is expected within a few weeks. It's about, I don't know, let me see. It's about thousands and thousands of 6,000 pages and 10,000 underlying documents. So the judge said we will take the necessary time to reach a well-founded decision. And one thing, at the end of the day, the final day, the judge spoke, questioning the lawyer of the Watchtower why he has so many assistants. And he said that the case was complex and of great importance of JW headquarters in the United States. So they're going all the way in this case. So that's why this case is also so important. The governing body knows that this case is a very important case. You can think, oh, there are only 12,000 Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. Even in the Netherlands, where I come from, there are already 30,000 JWs. It's not a big number. It's not a big country. It's not an important country for the Jehovah's Witnesses at headquarters. But it is important because they know that this case will be an example for other countries to get a grip on the Jehovah's Witnesses and maybe take away their funding or deregistration of Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're going all in on this one, in this poker game. And they tried their best, but it was all about personal decision of the elders, blaming the parents if someone was too young to be baptized, blaming ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, that it's all false, they were saying, family relationships remain the same. So I am very curious, and let me know in the comments, people, what you think is gonna happen now. Because Jehovah's Witnesses have to get this information. And I think the Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway, and there were many Jehovah's Witnesses in that courtroom, because they want to fill the whole courtroom with Jehovah's Witnesses, so there's no room for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. They all hear this lawyer lying about the organization. There is an elder, that Soterhawk, is also lying that there is no guidance for elders on particular matters about disfellowshipping and all the things. Jehovah's Witnesses are hearing those lies, and I want to crawl into those heads and know they must know that this is a lie, that the organization has strict policies, the organization has rules about how to treat a disfellowship person. It's in the literature, not to eat with them, even not to greet with them, etc., etc., etc. They loosen up a little bit that you can invite something to the meeting, but otherwise nothing is changed. So I'm curious, and let me know in the comments what you think. It has to be almost that after this verdict, there is coming some new light about this fellowshipping. Or if they have to do something about this, because if they don't do anything about this, I predict that a lot of people are gonna change the way they look at this fellowshipping. It can't be any different, because this case gets media attention. This case have statements from even wives of circuit overseers in the newspaper about the elders are my friends, not the police, blah blah blah. They are lying so hard in this case that it has to have consequences after this, because people get problems with their conscience. It has to be. People have to wake up after this. Hey, I'm disfellowshipping the hell out of my brother already for 30 years. And now they say we are liberal and we don't have any rules about contact. So I can have contact without consequences. And if there are consequences with the elders, it's not in line anymore. So I think this will create a lot of tension and friction in the organization, because people are loyal to an organization who throws their own people under the bus when it suits them. You're not worth anything, Jehovah's Witnesses. We see it in this case. You're only there for your money and to obey them, whatever they do, and they repeat that in broadcastings. Sometimes we make a decision that doesn't make sense for you, but you have to trust us. But they throw you under the bus, that everything you did for that religion, your brother, your niece, your nephew, you have no contact with, was your own personal decision. And that's gonna be a hard one for people to swallow, and that will lead to many people who get disappointed in this organization and leave. Or they have to let go of those shunning rules and say it is a personal decision. If you want to have contact with your family member who is disfellowshipped, we don't care. It's not about this. And that's, like I said, we can differ, but we can still hang out with each other. So I'm curious to see where this is going, because it doesn't stop with this court case. It goes now, a snowball effect in that organization. Has to be. People have to wake up, or they have to change the rules. Let me know in the comments, people. So now we're gonna wait for the decision. I'm confident that the state has enough proof in the elders manual, in the literature, in the shunning videos, etc., to counter all those just arguments and words of the Jehovah's Witness lawyer. He doesn't provide the evidence. He's only giving us testimonies and words, but there is no evidence for them to back it up. So I believe in the state. I believe in the deregistration and rejecting the funding, and then we'll have to see how it's gonna be to be a Jehovah's Witness in Norway and what they are gonna do as a Jehovah's Witness, because they know they have been lied to by the governing body. Thank you for watching. See each other on the next episode.